Yes. Hi, hello, and welcome back to another episode. That was wonderful. Anyway,
I didn't think I hit start. Anyways, we are doing another true crime episode today. And this is somebody that I haven't heard of. I actually had to look this person up. Like normally I can be like, oh, I think this would be a good true crime episode or this or that. But I was like, let's look up some options. And so I got this guy here. Good old Albert Fish.
um,
So
wait, my headphones just died, and you're coming out of my speakers. Are you hearing any kind of echo?
how fucking dare you? But no, I'm not. I heard that.
Okay, perfect. Anyway, go ahead.
Um, I just got hold on. I just got a text from my friend. She's like, I put out your blanket too, by the way. She just bought a house and she's like showing me all these pictures of like her new house. And I had, those like old school, like woven blankets that always had like a design on them and they had like the little like frilly stuff on them, like around the edges.
Uh-huh.
So I had a blanket and it was like, I think it had like Jasmine Bell or like Cinderella on it. And I was like, "Do you want this?" Because I was going through some stuff. And she's like, "Yeah, I'll take it." And I was like, "All right, cool. Like, here you go. Happy birthday." Like all this stuff. And she's like, "I put your blanket out too." And I'm like, "Oh, you do care." Okay. Anyways, a little, joking before we get into pretty hot and heavy. Not hot and heavy. Um, some
Just
pretty,
regular heavy.
yeah, just some pretty heavy conversation. So before I do this, I do want to give like a content warning. So for those who have ick or grossness or whatever, just cannot listen to it, this is your warning. Please do not listen to it. It's throughout the entire thing. So this episode is going to reference child abuse, murder, and cannibalism, as well as some possible graphic descriptions of things. It might not be as graphic, but like if your imagination runs wild and you can just imagine what the graphic everything is, please heed with caution. But yes, there's going to definitely be child abuse, murder, and cannibalism spoken in here. So picture this. New York City, 1934. A mother opens an envelope 6 years after her daughter vanished, and the letter inside starts gently, almost politely, like a note from a familiar neighbor. Um, the writer recalls how he first saw the little girl, how he won the family's trust, and how easily she took his hand. The tone feels domestic, matter of fact. Then his words turn cold, precise. He explains what he did without apology, without emotion. And in that calm voice, he confesses, and he signs a name that will haunt headlines: Albert Fish, the Gray Man. So we're not gonna obviously, I'm not gonna read the like graphic parts. We're not gonna disclose any of that. But why? Because we don't need to. The letter that was sent to this family, it's certainty, it's careful details, um, was enough to point detectives directly to him. It was something that they knew automatically where to go, who to find. And so tonight we're going to talk about how does someone become Albert Fish.
All right. How does one become Albert Fish?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to talk about kind of like before we like go back to like who Albert Fish was, we're going to kind of talk about like what started it. So late 1920s into the 1930s, New York was a city of crowded tenements and shifty neighborhoods. Families knew their block, but not always the strangers passing through. Cases like the Grace Budd disappearance magnified a growing fear. The trusted visitor who became the threat. The press leaned into that fear, and the phrase the boogeyman stuck, especially once police shared who they believed the letter writer was. So, this is also when the boogeyman became termed. So, Albert Fish is also known as the boogeyman.
Oh,
Um,
that's interesting.
he didn't belong to any of these neighborhoods. He was just a stranger passing through, and that visitor took a child by the name of Grace Budd out from their grasps. Um, so that's kind of what started all of this, like the background into who Albert Fish was. So his story actually starts decades earlier, far from, any of these high crowded locations of New York City with all of this. So Albert Fish was actually born Hamilton Howard Fish in Washington, D.C. in 1870. His father was 75 when Albert was born and died when Albert was 5.
Can
His
we talk
mother,
about
over
how it feels like that was, like, hundreds of years ago, but really, like, that was less
not,
than 200 years ago.
yeah, I was gonna say that was definitely not hundreds.
It's not that long ago, like, when you talk about the 1800s, it feels like forever ago,
Yeah.
and compared to
We're
our
literally
lifetime.
44 years
Yeah.
away from it being 200 years.
Yeah, but, like, it's it's not that long comparatively.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, man. Also, the fact that his dad was 75 in 1870, what the fuck? Excuse me?
I can't help you.
Sir, how did you survive to that age and that time? Like,
That is a good
that's 15
question.
years over. Like, you are ancient in that time. But anyway, so he was 75 when Albert was born and died when Albert was 5. So at the age of 80, Albert's father passed. His mother, overwhelmed, placed him in a St. John's orphanage. I don't know exactly what made her overwhelmed other than being a single mother, but, like, I was trying to think, I was like, "Oh, maybe it's, like, the Great Depression time." No, it's 1875.
Yeah, not yet.
Um, and we're in Washington, DC. Like, I get it, people are poor, people can like, things can happen, but, like, what led to it? But I also read that there was a lot of mental health issues, like, between both sides of the family, so it
I was
could
gonna say,
very
it
well.
sounds like maybe he's a little bit of a psycho, and she probably couldn't
Yeah.
handle him.
Well, I also don't know how old his mother was, so, like,
Oh, right, if his dad was.
if your dad's 75, like, how old is your mom?
But, I mean, if
But
he's that young, she can't be 75.
no. Not yeah, no. Ain't no way she had a child that age. Um,
Right.
which makes you wonder what kind of a life did she have before that? Anyway,
Right, that
um,
was this an
so
arranged marriage? Like,
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Well, it was in the 1870s, possibly.
it could have been, yeah.
So his mother, who was very overwhelmed with taking care of him, actually placed him at St. John's Orphanage. Orphanages, I don't know about other places in the world, but they are not a thing here. They are care facilities. Um, Essentially orphanage. They're orphanages, just not legally termed orphanages, and
Yeah.
not like come here, take a look at what we got. It's not like going to like an animal shelter and looking at all the available things
Yeah,
to
it's not
adopt.
like it
It's
was then.
yeah, yeah, it's different. So at St. John's Orphanage, beatings were very routine. Fish later said that's where I got started wrong. And honestly, he probably not wrong about that one.
Yeah,
Um, so there are
that's
multiple
the
accounts.
nurture part of it.
Yeah. So accounts describe the family history being marked by mental illness. There were relatives with mania,
That's the nature
schizophrenia.
part.
Yeah. uh, Relatives with mania, schizophrenia, and hallucinations. So the problem is that background doesn't always determine a life. It can to make you more predetermined to have all of that, but it doesn't necessarily say that you're going to get that. There might be different things that trigger those, you know, mental health issues that like kick it into place. There's some people that could be like dormant for years, and all of a sudden one thing just like flips your brain. Um,
And
so
sometimes
like,
that one thing is puberty.
yeah, yeah. Um, but again, that background doesn't always determine a life, but it can, kind of increase
The
the
likelihood.
likelihood. So in the orphanage, punishment was a spectacle. And for Albert, pain began to mix with relief, with that attention forming a dangerous association. When he leaves the orphanage, that conditioning travels with him. In his teens and his early
Right.
adulthood, he experiments sexually and begins to display paraphilic behaviors, very unusual, persistent patterns linking arousal to acts most people would find disturbing or taboo, if you will. Um, by his by his 20s, he's drifting. Um, Odd jobs, petty offenses, and learning how to mask those inner compulsions. Outwardly, he can be quiet, even gentle. But on the inside, something darker is actually taking root. Ugh. Um, so Fish develops rituals of self-harm. Even decades later, after his arrest, they actually found they did X-rays, and the X-rays revealed that dozens of needles were embedded into his pelvic region. He
Oh,
describes whipping, burning, and private ceremonies that blur pain and desire. These aren't one-off dares; they're actual rehearsals, and they're ways to prime his body and mind to need more. So, forensic psychologists describe how fantasy, if repeatedly rewarded by powerful internal states, can harden into compulsion. Mix that with early trauma, possible neurological and psychiatric vulnerabilities, and a lack of intervention, and that risk escalates. So, it's here between the ritual and routine that Fish's private world begins to reach outward. Ugh, that's not good. So, unfortunately, Albert Fish wore several names. He didn't always go by Hamilton and any of that. Um he went by all of them, really. Hamilton, Albert, and aliases like Frank Howard. He married and had 6 children, and at times neighbors saw a quiet, helpful older man. He could pass convincingly as a kindly figure. That's how he found victims. He would choose a
yeah.
pretext like farm work, a small errand, a party, and a present, and present himself as, you know, that safety in numbers. um, he later would boast wildly about having children in every state, um, and claim numbers that don't match the official record. Investigators verified at least 3 murders and suspected more. Many of his claims were exaggerations or, honestly, impossible to corroborate. That looked like a murder waiting to happen. Like, your redhead, like, child, when I looked at the screen, looked like he was trying to choke you. I love that for you.
He was just getting up here,
He's like, "Whoa."
laying in my lap.
There you go. So, unfortunately, he's kind of a compulsive liar, but it also makes it harder to find out that if he did it or not. And the fact that he actually has 3 murders linked to him, then it's like, "Oh, shit. Is he lying? Is he telling the truth?" So, let's fast forward a little bit to May 1928. Uh, we're gonna talk about the Budd family. So, the Budd family lives in a very cramped Manhattan, location. Their teenage son, Edward, places a newspaper and ad looking for farm work. And an older gentleman answers, introducing himself
Uh-oh.
as Frank Howard. He's polite, he's soft spoken. He says he has a farm out on Long Island and can use an extra pair of hands.
You know who else was polite and soft-spoken? Ted Bundy.
That's where they get you. So Howard returns to the apartment. He brings small treats. Um, he compliments the family. He meets Grace, Ed's 10-year-old sister. And at some point, he suggests a harmless detour, a quick birthday party for his niece. Grace can come. She puts on her Sunday dress best, and they leave together.
Guy.
So not only did he not get his farm work, he lost his sister because Grace does not return. Ba, ba, ba. Days become years, and the police still search. The Budd family waits and waits, but nothing happens. Then in 1934, an envelope arrives. The letter inside starts with a strange memory from abroad and then with an unsettling hush. He describes meeting Grace, taking her to an empty house, asking her to wait for him while he prepared. The phrasing is careful, almost domestic, as if he was writing a recipe. And then he states plainly what he did. No apology, no self defense, just a flat declaration. Detectives study the paper, the envelope, and trace details back to a rooming house, and then
Yeah?
to the man that wrote it. When they confront him, he doesn't flee. He just gives his name, Albert Fish. In custody, he talks. Some of what he says is verifiable. Much of it isn't, but the Grace Budd confession is enough. He got locked up. I was trying to think of the song, the Akon song. They won't
Let
let me
the
out.
don't let me out.
Um, so Fish is arrested in December 1934. He's charged with kidnapping and murder. At trial, his attorneys actually argue insanity, which honestly they might actually have a pretty good case when it comes to that, considering like the family history, the trauma, the beatings that he endured as a child, and then what had essentially continued on with the sadistic kind of behavior that he has against himself and self-harm, all of that. So he actually has a pretty solid case for insanity. But I mean, who's to say he isn't? So they argue that he's driven by delusions and these compulsions. And prosecutors counter that he actually planned, deceived, and concealed and
Yeah.
signs of legal sanity and criminal responsibility, which is also against him. But okay, like side quest here is that I mean, couldn't you be like fucked up enough, like in the brain that like insanity wise you did plan all of this? Like, couldn't that be argued too?
I mean, yeah, probably. But did they know that then?
I mean, I don't even think they would care about it even now. So,
Well, would they care about it? Absolutely not. They don't care about anything,
well,
especially not people with mental illnesses.
no, and that's why like that's it brings up the fact that everybody in prison, in jail, or whatever, need to be have like given mental health therapy.
Hmm.
But anyways,
That's part of rehabilitation, but that's a different soapbox.
what her rehabilitation? Just throwing them to the streets and good luck.
Maybe in a
Has
not
anyone
traumatized
ever
prison
seen
system.
Shawshank Redemption? God damn it. I
You
cry
already know
every
I
fucking
haven't.
huh?
Said you already know I haven't.
But it's not a scary movie. It's sad. It'll make you
I don't
cry.
watch. I don't watch things. I don't watch things.
It's
Is it a
actually a
book?
really good movie. It's critically acclaimed. Like, it's good, and you'll cry, and it'll make you feel bad for people in prison.
I already feel bad for people in prison.
Okay, well, it'll make it worse. Anyways, there's just a sweet old man there that, like, has been in prison for, like, 60 years, and then he gets discharged, like, and he doesn't know what to
And
do
then
with
dies.
himself. No, he kills himself because he doesn't he's, like, depressed, and he can't believe he's in this world, and he's, like, not good enough for it.
Well, and especially because at that age, I don't know how long he was in prison, but, like, some people are in prison for, like, 40 years. Do you know how much the world changes in 40 years?
That's why he killed
Imagine
himself
that
because
you
when
went
he
to
came
jail
out. Yeah,
in the '80s and got out in
now.
2020.
Yeah. Well,
It's
and
a totally different fucking world.
that was the whole point in the story. Like, he got his own tiny little apartment, and he became like a bag boy at like a grocery store, but he wasn't quick enough, and he wanted them to be quicker. And so he got like a fired basically, and I think if he got fired, he was going to go back to like prison. I don't know. It's been a while since I watched it. All I know is that when he got out, things had changed so much, like cars, all of this, that he
Everything.
had become like he was terrified, so he, like, killed himself. But
Well,
anyways.
'cause even thinking, like, in the '80s, there weren't self-checkouts, that wasn't a thing.
Mhm.
There weren't
Now there
automated
is.
cashiers, there wasn't
Oh, there's
automated
self-driving vehicles.
anything. Right.
It's like
So
watching, Back to the Future real time,
yeah. 'Cause,
but
like, yeah, you would see those things on TV and stuff, but, like,
mhm,
you wouldn't actually experience them, and that's very different.
yeah. So, I mean, I guess you could argue it either way. It just depends on, like, the legal system, I guess, and obviously that's not gonna work. So, anyways, because the prosecutors countered, the insanity plea, the jury convicts. On January 16th, 1936, quite a few years after, the murder and 2 years after his confession, um, Albert Fish dies in the electric chair at Sing Sing prison. The headlines try to make sense of him with labels like the Gray Man, Boogeyman, Werewolf of Wisteria. But honestly, the truth is really more complicated and quite a bit more unsettling. And it just shows what, like, your formative life can really do.
I'm gonna go with the cat.
Um, yeah. So let's kind of look at the like psychological breakdown of this. And like a neurobiopsychosocial view looks at this at like overlapping layers. Um, Early bereavement, so like early loss of that father figure, institutional abuse, possible psychiatric vulnerability in the family line, the conditioning of pain to arousal, especially at that young age, in that like time where you can be easily not necessarily manipulative or manipulated, but like moldable. Um, and it's like the fantasy to behavior pipeline. So, like, none of these alone really explain him, but they also together form why his path became his path. Um, Even his cannibalism fits within like his like psychological pattern. Um, he like consuming the victim becomes an act of control and permanence. So like in an attempt to erase that abandonment and to ensure the victim can never leave. It's more, or well, no, it's less about the gore than it is about the twisted kind of intimacy and power that it like gives you. So the fact that those serial killers who end up like eating their victims, it's less about the gory, like movie esque kind. It's that twisted intimacy and that power that you hold above them. Um, so, like, be careful who you piss off next time, apparently.
Right, and, like, you could never leave me because I ate you, so now you're a part of me. Blech. But
Abandonment
also
issues.
yeah.
Abandonment.
This is really on brand for us right now.
Yeah, I know. That's kinda why I did it. But, like, so essentially, there were a lot of sexual abuse that happened with the victims that he killed, and that
Mm,
ended
hate
with
that.
cannibalism. Um, so a lot of it implies that he had, intercourse with Grace Budd, whether before or after she passed. Um, so
This is gonna
his
sound gross, but, like, hopefully after, for
yeah,
her sake.
yeah, honestly. Um, but so his case actually, like, shifted public fears around child safety and, the trusted stranger. It actually forced courts, clinicians, and reporters to ask how we talk about crimes like these without amplifying the harm. So, like, we choose the facts, the context, and the prevention without reenacting the violence. Um, so Albert Fish makes it tempting to say monster and just walk away from it, but honestly, prevention is key to this. It lives in how we respond to childhood harm and how we treat serious mental illness and how we interrupt compulsion before it becomes a catastrophe. Understanding isn't excusing, but it's actually our best shot at stopping the next gray man before he has a name in the paper.
Mhm.
So when people talk about early onset intervention,
And trauma
that's
informed care.
part of it. So if you yourself, yeah, of course, if you, like, any of your friends, your siblings, anybody you know has had some type of trauma, it is very important that you, for the love of fucking God, get help
Yes.
because you might be okay. You might be fine for now until the end of time, but that does not mean that that does not pass on.
Yeah,
So
and
when
it
you
doesn't
do,
mean that, like, you're fine now, but you might not be later, like,
you might
there might
crack.
be yeah, there might be a like, a triggering moment that sets you off.
Yeah. Um, but if you are interested in learning more about Albert Fish, and here's the sad thing, like, he actually doesn't look like a predator. Like, when you actually look at his picture, you're just like, oh,
Neither did Ted Bundy.
yeah. Well, no, Ted Bundy was ugly as fuck. Like, this looks like a grandpa.
Okay, but at the time, he was,
Yeah,
like, an attractive person for the time.
true. Um, I also don't know if I ever said this, but because he was born in 1870, he, like, died at 65. Um,
Oh,
so he was actually only like 59, 58 when he murdered Grace Budd.
mm, mhm.
But yeah, you actually can watch uh a documentary on Albert Fish only in certain locations on Netflix, but they do have documentaries out there. It's literally called Albert Fish. It was in 2007, and it talks about his life, I guess. Um,
Hmm,
oh, there it is. Albert Fish, in Sin He Found Salvation. They say you can watch it on Tubi. You can watch it in certain countries on Netflix, and possibly on Apple TV. So if not, oh, and Fandango, I guess. But if not, pirate that shit because fuck everybody, you know. But yeah, so that is Albert Fish. Unfortunately, somebody who may have been the next Einstein was unfortunately given a shitty hand in life and no assistance. So makes you wonder about I'm pulling your heartstrings on serial killers today. Okay. Anyways, until next time.
Bye.